What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Metal Gladiator here, and doing another tier list. For this one, I have a special guest with me.
Hey everybody, I'm Film Thespian. I enjoy music.
He enjoys music.
I enjoy music. Music is good.
Today, we are doing the Dream Theater album tier list. This is
Yeah.
their studio albums. Their first one to A View from the Top of the World, right? I almost drew a blank on that title. But yeah,
View from
their
the top
most
of the
recent
world.
one as of the recording of this. So
Yeah.
they'll probably have another
They
one coming out.
announced a new album recently, didn't they?
Yeah,
That they were working on one
yeah, I think so.
because
I was
Mike
reading a
Portnoy
preview.
rejoined the band.
Get right into this. I'm going to explain a bit of what the tier list is, just in case if anybody's unfamiliar with it. Basically, we have at the top here S tier, A tier, B tier, C, and D. We do not have an F tier because not really any of the albums to be in F tier. This first tab, I got two tabs here opened. This first tab is going to be mine, and then the second tab here is going to be Nathaniel's. Alright, I figure we might agree. He has a prediction that we're going to agree most of the albums until we
Yeah,
get past Black Clouds and Silver Linings. So we'll see how this goes.
yeah, that's my prediction. We'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see how
my
correct
prediction.
I am.
Starting things off with a debut album that has that artwork on it.
Maybe we should
When
do a uh tier list of the album art as well whenever we're
Yeah.
finished with this.
So this
Yeah.
one is When Dream and Day Unite, I believe.
1989.
1989. And the placement for this one, for me, is going at the bottom in D tier because it is by far my least favorite album by them, and it does not hold up very well.
It's
It's
not bad.
yeah.
There are a few songs on there that I enjoyed.
I think it's called like the Yesta Jam or something. It was like Majesty backwards. That one's
Yeah.
it's a jam, you know. And I
Yeah.
think the first song, I can't remember what it's called, but the first song was pretty good. Notes.
I
I did
have
not
it in
write
my
notes.
notes.
I need to start writing notes actually,
You
because
need
that
to
would
write
really help.
Fortune and Lies. I wrote it
That's
so
right.
close
That's right.
together it looks like two words, so it took me a
Uh,
second. Fortune in
a
lines. In
Fortune in
lies.
Lies. Yeah, that was pretty good, and the Yesta Jam is pretty good. So they've got some moments, but you know, it's the first album.
Yeah.
You can't really expect too much from the
Yeah.
first
It
album.
also has a different singer,
It
I
does.
like his voice. I think
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, oh, he has a different singer, therefore it's bad.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I didn't realize that before we started this. Mainly
Yeah.
because I didn't know when Dream and Day Unite existed until we started this.
Yeah,
So,
that was a thing. Is like I didn't know this album existed for the longest time. I've been a Dream Theater fan for like maybe like 7, 8-ish years or something like that. Maybe longer than
probably
that.
longer than that.
Yeah, probably way longer than that.
Because
I don't know what I'm thinking.
you introduced them to
Yeah.
me back in 2013, 2014, something like
Oh
that. So
dang.
it's what 10 or 11 years at
Okay.
least.
Yeah. But yeah, I did not know this album existed until like at least 2017 or something. Some weird number like that. I don't even know. It was a few years before I even knew this one about. But what is your placement for this album?
My placement is also bottom of D tier.
Bottom of D tier.
Bottom of D.
Yes. Oh,
Sorry, when
actually,
Dream
I
and Day
forgot.
Unite.
So basically, the placement for the tier list here, if we have something at the very closest to the letter, that is the best one in that tier. The one farthest away from the letter is the worst one in that tier. Not that big of a deal, but you know, just so people can kind
Yeah,
of like understand the placements a little bit better. So it's like, hey,
right.
we have a
Okay.
lot. If we have like 5 albums in A tier, you can clearly see which one we like the best out of that tier. You know?
My favorite songs on that one were The Killing Hand and Status Seeker.
Mm. I forgot about the Killing Hand. That one was not bad.
I think that's the most popular one off that album, and I understand why, because it's the best song on that album.
Worst Dream Theater production, definitely just bottom automatically. No, I'm just kidding. Production's not everything. but it helps. As long as
Having
it's
good audio
yeah,
in movies or videos. It
right.
can look good and have bad audio, or let's say it's visuals instead. It can look bad but have good audio, and it's still watchable. But if you have bad audio and
Yeah.
good visuals, nobody's gonna watch it.
I don't. This
Oh,
isn't something I go back to listen to whenever I'm
yeah,
listening to them. Like I literally only listen to it when I'm doing a video like this, so it's like I don't really go back
right.
to it.
Yeah, it just kind of it exists.
It exists. It's there. We don't really acknowledge it day to day, but like it's not that insulting. But then they just did a 180 with this next album, Images and Words.
Mm,
Automatic S tier. Fantastic album. Fantastic. Like
wow.
really the
S tier.
definition of a 180 album. Like it's crazy. I think like the majority of Dream Theater fans put this in S tier. Like it's crazy. It's crazy good. It's got Pull Me Under, Take the Time, Metropolis Part
Yeah.
1. Learning to Live is a really good one. Another Day. Oh, so many good songs off this one. Now, Nathaniel's placement.
Uh, B.
B.
Uh, yeah.
Alright, guys, video's done. Video's done.
Oh my goodness. I was not
Alright,
expecting.
I'm out of here.
No, come back. Oh, guys, I apologize. I apologize to all the Dream Theater stands out there. I consider myself a Dream Theater fan, but I guess my card has been revoked.
I literally just said like everybody puts this in S tier, and you're just
I know you said that. I was like, oh no, oh no.
why B?
It has some great songs on there. I will say that. Pull Me Under and Metropolis are like my two favorite on the album. They're so good. I don't know. I just it didn't quite resonate with me as much as some of the other ones did. I don't know. Like early 90s, late 80s music kind of is hit or miss for me a lot of the time, and this is one of those. And it's B. It's still in B, so it's still really good. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed this
B
album
is not
a lot.
bad. B does not mean bad. So wow, you over here predicting that we're gonna have disagreements like
Yep,
after Silver Black Clouds and Silver
immediately
Linings.
wrong.
Second album, you're just like drop the ball, B tier, Images and Words. It's crazy. No, that's a hot take, but I like it. I like
Yeah.
it. Hopefully, we get some discussions in the comments. You know, production was a whole lot better. It was
Yeah, a
it
lot
was
better.
great. But yeah, this was the album that really put them out there too. Like they had a lot of commercial
That makes
success.
sense.
They had some music videos. They definitely had one for Pull Me Under. That was a notable one. I think they had one for Take the Time. Maybe one more. I'm not entirely sure on that. Don't quote me, but I know they had one for Pull Me Under and Take the Time. And this is also, we need to note that this is the first album with James LeBrie, who is their current
Mm.
vocalist. He
What do you
is.
think of James LeBrie's vocals? Are you a fan?
I was going to talk about it because this is the division in the Dream Theater community here. A lot of people like it, a lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it. I personally love it. Honestly, I think it fits the music very well. I mean, I can definitely understand people being like kind of annoyed by his voice and stuff. I can definitely understand that. I understand the other side of the argument being like, oh, it's not very good and all that. Like, I get it, but I think it works really well. I think his voice is like absolutely perfect for this band and the music that they play. So
I agree. I love his voice. I think his vocal range fits the type of music that they play,
oh yeah.
um, and their style. I think his vocal range is absolutely insane, and very impressive.
Next up, we got an interesting one, Awake. This one is underrated. I'm putting it in
I
A
agree.
tier. I am putting it in A tier. It is really, really good. Um, where are you putting it? We'll go ahead and do your placement, and then we'll talk about it.
Also an A.
No one really
I
talks
debated
about this
putting an
one.
S. I debated putting in an S, actually.
Yeah.
But then I re-listened to it, and there were a few songs on there that I was like
Yeah,
about. So I was like, no, I'll put it A.
yeah. It's kind of overshadowed by Images and Wars a bit in the fan base. I think,
I
man, you
think
need to
they
give it a
both have
listen. It's great.
similar kind of like sounds, and I think they both are very similar in a lot of ways. But in my personal opinion, I think
Images and
Awake
Wars
pulled it
twice.
off better than what Images and Words was trying to do. A little, just
uh,
I really resonated with the lyrics, and for those of you who know, I'm much more of a lyrics person than pretty much anything else, mainly because I don't really know how to play any instruments. So it's
yeah,
hard for me to judge if someone's playing things wrong or well or anything. I thoroughly enjoy really well played music. I can tell as much as like a casual listener can tell, but I'm not like it's hard for me to be critical about certain things. So I
yeah,
latch onto lyrics a lot. And the lyrics for Awake really grabbed my attention and pulled me in. And I really like was able to resonate with them a lot and relate to them a lot. What are
yeah.
your top songs off of Awake?
6 o'clock is really good.
Hmm.
Honestly, like the first three, honestly, like the first five songs, maybe six, because you got Silent Man there too. But like the first half of the album is like really, really good. Yeah, I think like the second half kind of falls off a little bit, but like not, it's not that bad. It
That's
still
kind of
holds
what that's
up.
kind of where like when I was listening to it as well, it started
Yeah,
to fall off and half.
yeah,
I
caught
do
it.
think the last song, Space Divest, that is in my standouts. That song, I love that
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
Caught in a Web, Voices, The Mirror, and Space Divest. Those are my favorite songs. Okay,
Alrighty.
well, those are my standouts.
Yeah.
I try to keep it to like 4 songs per album, except for The Astonishing because that's twice the length. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I try to keep them about 4 per album. So
Gotcha.
that's not saying that those are my only favorite songs on the album or the only songs that I liked on that album.
Yeah.
It's just I'm trying to keep it kind of small and concise.
I just think it's like super underrated and needs to be
Yeah,
appreciated more.
it's really good. It's
Like
really,
it
really good.
is a really solid album. It has its
Yeah.
moments where it just kind of doesn't hit you as hard, but like
Hmm.
very solid. A is right below S tier, so obviously is great. Moving on, we got Falling into Infinity. This one right here is at the bottom for D for me. This is my least favorite. This was
Wow.
my least favorite. I look at the song listing and everything, and I'm just like, I don't remember any of this. It's so forgettable.
Yeah.
This album's so incredibly forgettable. It's if it had an F tier, I'd probably consider putting it in F tier, but bottom at D, that's all right with me. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it because I don't really remember any of the songs, honestly, because it's just forgettable. It felt more like a studio pushing them than it felt like them. I remember that much. It just that's probably why it's so forgettable. It just didn't feel like them too much because I know like Mike Portnoy, it was really talking about that. Like the as soon as the music business got involved, it just took all the fun out of it. And
But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that the first song on this album was about studio interference. It was this one or on another album?
yeah, this is definitely an album like I never go back to.
Same.
So what's your replacement there?
Same place. I also considered putting in F,
Yeah,
but I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's fine. It's got a couple good. I like You Not Me. That one's pretty
that's
good.
probably the only one that stood out to me, but not enough
Yeah.
for me to like go back to it at all.
New Millennium, the first song on this album, was one of 3 songs written by Mike Portnoy that was geared towards the record label and expressed Portnoy's frustration with the record company.
I mean, this album definitely gave off that energy of just like it wasn't really them. Just
And I
kind of like
thought it was me at first. When we first tried to do this, I listened to it, but I was kind of just half listening to it. And then life happened for me, kind of take a break for a minute. And then when we came back to it, I'm like, I don't remember pretty much anything that I was listening to. So I started over.
exactly.
and got back to it, and I was like, I'm really gonna pay attention this time. I'm really going to focus this time because I was not paying attention last time, and then I still just wasn't into it. I had a really hard time getting through
Yeah.
that album, so I was like, okay,
Same here.
it's
Same
not it's
here.
not just the fact that I was like half listening to it.
Yeah, it's a rough listen.
My
Honestly.
standouts for this one were You Not Me, Anna Lee, Trials of Tears, and Peruvian Skies. But honestly,
A
You
lot of
Not
good
Me
tier
is really
lists.
the only one on that list that like I remember can actually remember and actually remember actually liking. The other ones I wrote as I was I wrote these as I was listening to it. So like
Yeah.
those are the ones that I listened to that stood out to me while I was listening to it. But now I can't tell you anything
Yeah.
about that.
Most
So
forgettable album. All right, moving on. The next one we've got Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from a Memory. This is also one that is kind of like an automatic S tier for a lot of fans. Might be a little bit of a hot take. I'm gonna put it in A, above Awake. So it's at the top of A tier for now, but it is above Awake. But I still very much love this album. It is
that's really
fantastic.
good. Their first concept album.
And they got so close to hitting that S tier for me. Is your placement for this album?
A tier below Awake.
About this album, that's not S tier.
Oh,
It's a question for both of us, I guess. Because
yeah.
honestly, the thing for me that stops it from being S tier, this may be a hot take, is the Dance of Eternity. The grand instrumental where they switch time changes constantly. Like it's impressive. I'm not gonna trash the song or anything, but I think it's a good song. It's impressive. It's fun to listen to, but I think it's a little pretentious at times, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, we get it.
We get it. You guys are
Okay,
good.
yeah, it kind of bugs me that this is a song right after Home, which is probably my favorite off of the album. I love that song so much. It inspired one of my favorite songs for Opeth. I remember Mike Portnoy talking about this in a video. The song Bleak from the Park album by Opeth, the actual songwriter was telling Mike Portnoy that the song Home inspired the main riff in that song for him. And if anybody doesn't know me, Opeth is one of my favorite bands of all time. They're in my top 5. I love them. The song everybody raves about is the thing that stops it from being S tier for me. It's just a little too pretentious for me, for my taste, you know. But it's still impressive. I would still listen to it, you know. It's not like I hate the song. They nailed it, really. And the format of a concept album is just a little too pretentious and not as fitting as it could have been.
Yeah, I understand that.
So yeah, that's my hot take. Nathaniel had some hot takes. Now I have a hot take.
But yeah, no, I love this one. I think the story is really good. I really enjoy the story. It is a little confusing if you're like just listening to it.
Yeah.
You kind of have to sit down and like analyze it to like fully understand what the story is, or like
I
find something online
I
that I didn't want to just try and figure it out on my own. So I just like looked up what
yeah.
other people had already,
Yeah.
where other people had done all the work
I
and just
do
told me what
like
the story
I do like
was.
the lyric structure, especially to Beyond This Life. I really like how the lyrics are structured in that song. That's a
Yeah.
standout song for me lyrically. Yeah, home,
My
home is
standouts, Fatal Tragedy and Home. Those are my two. Home is so good.
all right. Yeah. Any other thoughts on Metropolis Part Two?
It's really, really good, and I really, really like it.
What he said. 6 degrees of inner turbulence. This one I was kind
Mhm.
of going back and forth with this one, but after some debate, I am going to put it at the bottom of A tier right now, so it's below Awake and Metropolis Part 2. For now, this might change in the future, but you know, for now, I'm going to put it there. I was debating B tier, but it would definitely have been like the top of B tier. What is your placement? And then we'll talk about it.
Top of B. But it was also a huge it was a huge debate for me as well. Like I was like, I really like it though. And I was but it's just like it's really good, but it's hard to tell it's hard for me to decide whether or not it needs to go in A or B. It's like right on
Yeah.
that cusp, you know? I guess the whole thing, the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is like what, a 40-minute song, just
Yeah.
broken up into like 6 songs. I kind of wish it was just that because it kind of feels weird having those first like 5 songs that have nothing to do with anything and then going into pretty much a concept album. It just felt weird to me.
I'm kind of in the other side of that. I think the first half of the album is the stronger point.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that I wish they were
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
that the first half didn't exist. I'm just saying I wish they were they were separate. Felt
Prison.
weird that they were together to me.
This is the start of Mike Portnoy's 12-step Sutire, which is the opening song. Is a really good one.
In
My
my notes, I
favorite.
wrote strong intro
Yeah,
on that.
yeah. My favorite though, it was the Glass Prison for a long time, but I think my favorite is the Great Debate.
My standouts were Glass Prison, Misunderstood, Overture, and War Inside My Head. I just wish War Inside My Head were longer because it's like 2 minutes.
Yeah, I really like the test to stump them all.
Hmm.
I just like how that one starts off too. But yeah, this was a pretty solid album.
Yeah.
Honestly, might change for me from A to B, but I'm gonna keep it where it is right now. But for now, it is the bottom of A. This next one is my actual introduction to this band. This was the first album that I got by them, and it was how I got into Dream Theater. We got Train of Thought here, and right now for me, this is going at the very top of A tier.
Nice.
Again, so close to making it S tier. However, it doesn't have the same reason of not getting the S tier for me as Metropolis Part 2, because I don't think there's a weak song. I think all the songs flow very well. The reason that it's not an S tier for me is the S tier albums are just a bit better than it. It's definitely probably like top 5 without a doubt.
Right.
It's got a very solid track listing. It's very solid.
S tier.
S tier. We got our first S tier
S
from
tier.
Nathaniel.
Yes!
Woo!
I absolutely love this album. It was not my introduction album, but I think it was because you had you let me listen to it or borrow it or something.
Yeah.
So it was one of the first ones that I heard.
It's so
It's got
good.
this it's kind of darker than what they usually
Yeah.
sound like,
I
and I
really
absolutely love that.
Yeah, I really like the production on this one. It really in
Mm,
terms of production, like I'm not a producer. I don't know all the in and outs of like sound and stuff. I'd like to learn it, but like I don't know very much. So when an album stands out very much in terms of production wise to me, who's like very untrained in that sense, it seems really good. Like the
yeah.
sound of the snare drum is just so tight, and just how everything pulls together is just fantastic. So this is
Mm.
one that just really stands out to me in that regard.
I have
Yeah.
no words because it's so good.
It's so good. I'm just gonna say that right now. I cannot pick a favorite song. I mean, I
What
guess
are
if you
some of your standout songs?
As I Am, This Dying Soul, Endless Sacrifice, Vacant, Stream of Consciousness, and In the Name of God.
All my standout
The whole
songs are
album.
all of them. Just the whole
Yeah,
album.
yeah. Oh no. Honor Thy Father. I don't know why I forgot that one. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's As I Am, This Dying Soul, Endless Sacrifice, Honor Thy Father, Vacant, Stream of Consciousness, and In the Name of God.
In the Name of God.
So,
Yep.
yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mike Portnoy. You wrote that song so beautifully, and I am ashamed to have forgotten it.
I mean, it's pretty much the same for me. I think this is right around when I was like, I'm going to start picking 4 because I only picked 4, and like I'm looking at the other 3, and I'm like, why aren't they in my thing? It's As I Am, This Dying Soul, and The Sacrifice and Honor Thy Father. It's the first 4. This is so good.
If you had a gun to my head and told me to pick a favorite and a least favorite on this album, I'd probably just be like, just pull the trigger, man.
Maybe you should move it to S.
No, I'm not gonna move it to S because they're just not on the same level as my S tier ones, but it's very close. This is the top of A, and I will say right now, spoiler warning, nothing is going above this album. In the A tier, it is the top album, so pretty sure the next one is Aquavarium.
Yes.
Okay, this one, really good. It's really, really good.
Hmm.
This is also one that I was kind of debating between 2 different tiers. I'm gonna put it in the middle of A tier. I really like this album. A lot of the songs don't have the same replayability as like something like Panic Attack and the title track on it, The Root of All
Mhm.
Evil. I'm gonna put it in the middle of A. I feel confident with that.
Actually, it's actually in B tier for me. I'll say between 6 degrees of inner turbulence and images and words.
Okay. Middle ground in B tier. Yeah, I was debating to put it in B tier, but because like some of the songs are just not like as replayable, but like whenever I listen
Yeah,
to the songs that I don't go back to often, I still like very much enjoy them. So I'm just like, okay,
right.
I feel like it's A tier.
That's kind of where I'm at on all of and on everything in B tier. Like, if it's something that I like find myself going back to and I enjoy every song on it, but there's only like a few that I'm like, I like these ones.
Yeah.
I like these ones. Then I'm like, okay, that means B tier.
In terms of an album structure, I think it is superior to 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence and Awake for me. So that's why I put it in like that
Mhm.
middle ground A tier.
Actually, you know what? I agree with that. Change it. Put
Change
it
it. What?
above, move 6 degrees of inner turbulence to behind the other two.
Below Images and Wolves and Aquavarium. See,
Yeah.
that's another thing too. It's like the
Yeah.
way that we like talk about the albums could like change our opinion. The
Yeah.
main reason why I don't think about the songs too much, aside from like Panic Attack, The Root of All Evil, and the title track that I kind of go back to, is I kind of feel like this is more of like an album listen. And when you listen to it like that, that's another reason why it's an A tier than rather than B tier for me. I just feel like it's very good, like whole compact album. You know, even though you don't go back and listen to every song, is if you listen to the whole album, you'll enjoy the experience.
My standouts are Root of All Evil, I Walk Beside You, Panic Attack, and Never Enough.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna we're backtracking a little bit. I'm actually gonna change something because it's kind of been lingering in the back of my head. Kind of wanted to change it at this as soon as you put it in this tier, but I'm actually going to move 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence into B. I just feel like the second half is not as strong as the first half, but I'm going to put it in B. B is still very good, so a little sidetrack note, but I was gonna put it when you were talking about it in B tier. I was like, I kind of agree with that, but then I was like, nah, I gotta stay committed. I gotta stay true to myself. But I'm just like, who cares? Just put it in B. Systematic Chaos. This is an underrated album. I
Hmm.
absolutely adore this album, and it is going in S tier.
It's an A for me.
Oh, if you don't put them above it,
Man,
I'm just kidding.
I think it's gonna go behind Awake, but above Metropolis.
But yeah, this one is so underrated, man. Nobody talks about this one enough. I love it. Like,
It's a really good one.
yeah, I love the song placement too, because it's like they have part one and then part two at the end of the album, and it's just kind of like
Yeah.
this.
Was reading about it, and I think it was meant as one song. They wrote it.
That
I
that
think pretty
definitely
sure
makes
they wrote it
sense.
as one song, but they felt like the Ministry of Lost Souls didn't end the album as well as they wanted it to. So then they split up the first song and made that the end, and it
Okay,
felt more
okay.
like a rounded thing.
I
And I
definitely
agree
get
with that.
that.
When I read that, and I had just finished The Ministry of Lost Souls, and I was like, yeah, that one didn't really feel like the end of an album. That just kind of it would have felt weird if that had been the end.
Honestly, probably my least favorite song on this one. It's weird that I can pick a least favorite song and on this one that's in S tier and not in Train of Thought that's in A. Forsaken does kind of feel like that single that they needed to release for it, It's off
Yeah.
that vibe. It's still a really good song. It's probably the one that I can do without. But other than that, just
Right.
the whole album just flows very well. The Dark Eternal Night is like they were using that song for their drum auditions as like one of the hardest, so that says something.
Mm.
Probably my
I love the
favorite.
wordplay in Prophets of War.
Yes, yes.
I love it.
I can actually pick a favorite on this one just because of how impactful musically it is. But the Ministry of Lost Souls, probably in my top five Dream Theater songs of all time. That's another reason why this is
Mm.
S tier. Is it has like one of my all-time favorites from them. But that song is so, how do I explain this? Like their original name was Majesty, and I feel like this song musically achieves that title so well. It's just so
Mm.
majestic and it's just grand I love it. It is one of my favorite songs by them ever.
It's a really good. It is a really solid album. And the standouts for this one for me were Dark Eternal Night, Repentance, Prophets of War, and In the Presence of Enemies Part 2.
I'm a little disappointed you didn't say Ministry of Lost Souls, but you know.
Oh, it's still up there, man. It
Oh
is
yeah.
still really good.
Black
Yeah.
Clouds and Silver Linings. Really,
I'm
really
going to
love
be
this album.
hardcore judging where you put this one, by the way.
I'm actually going to be putting this one in the middle of A tier. So it's above Aquavarium, but below Metropolis Part 2. Train of Thought. I very much enjoy this album, but I will admit that it can kind of drag a bit, especially in Count of Tuscany, where it's
Really?
not too much of the fact that it's like, oh, I don't like it or anything, but like, I
Mhm.
can understand from like a general view of it, of like the song structure and everything. It kind of Tuscany kind of has like that one lead moment where it's very atmospheric that kind of drags a little bit, but I mean, it's still a very good album, man. I can't hate on this too much. I just have a little nitpicks here and there, but like, it's a great album. Probably my least favorite one on this one is The Rite of Passage.
I agree with that one, actually.
Yeah, it kind of
That's
felt.
probably that's the one I forget's on there the most.
Yeah,
I mean, I
Withal.
still really enjoy that song
Yeah,
though. Whenever I listen to it, I still really enjoy that one. It's just that whenever I'm not listening to it, it's one that I just kind of forget about.
Count of Tuscany is great. Shattered
Mhm.
Fortress, Withal, Nightmare to Remember. I don't know if I can pick a
Yeah.
favorite, but I can definitely pick a least favorite. Rite of Passage. Actually, I can pick
Yeah.
a favorite. The Best of Times.
That's it. That's a good one.
I love the edit of Mike Portnoy singing that song.
I need to hear
You
that.
need to
I
hear
didn't
that.
know about that.
Yeah. I think there was an edit of John Petrucci singing Withal as well. And there's a piano edit of Withal, which was pretty good too.
I'm pretty sure I have heard that one, the piano edit of it. That one
Yes,
means a
sir.
lot more to me now than it did before. For me, this one, I'm a little biased because this is my introduction album to them.
Okay.
It goes in S, top of S.
Of
It is
Train
my
of
favorite.
Thought.
It is my absolute favorite Dream Theater album. I
Okay.
love this. I do have a little bit of a fun story for this one. So you introduced them to me by a song off of actually the next album. Yeah, A Dramatic Turn of Events. You showed me a song off of a dramatic turn of events, and I was like, they're really cool. I like these guys.
Yeah.
And then we went to our mall and we went to FYE. Like, you know what? I'm gonna get a Dream Theater album. I hadn't heard a single other song from Dream Theater, so I didn't even know if I was gonna like them or not. I went there, I saw a few albums. I didn't know which one to get. My eye was drawn to that one. I'll get this one. And I was like really, really nervous because I was like, what if I got their worst album and this one sucks. But then I immediately got back in my car and started playing it. Immediately was like, this is amazing. These guys are so good. I want more of this. Give me more. And then I think I saw you either later that day or the next day or something. I don't know. And I told you I bought it and I showed it to you and you were like, "What? I've never seen that in the store before, ever." Oh, I got the last one. Sorry. And then I was like, I didn't know if this was going to be a good one or not, so I just got it.
Yeah.
And it's like one of my favorite ones by them.
Yeah,
And I
I'm
was
pretty
like,
sure I got
oh,
it not too long after you did. Nice story. Brings
yeah,
back memories, man.
yep.
Back in 2016, was it, or something like that?
So it was somewhere between 2014 and 2015 whenever you showed me that song. So it's been
Yeah.
9 or 10 years at least since you've been a fan of Dream Theater. I don't know when you discovered them.
Sad
And
about
then
this album. It's dope.
my standouts are the entire album.
The entire album.
My standouts are Nightmare to Remember, Count of Tuscany, Wither, and Best of Times.
Sleeping on the Shattered Fortress, man. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
Shattered Fortress is so good.
The final track in the Mike Portnoy's 12 step there. Alright, this is where things are going to get interesting. And this is where
Yep.
you predicted that we would be differing.
We've
Back
been
and
different a
forth.
little bit, but not like a
Yeah.
whole lot.
The big
So
one
far.
for us was Images and Wars, honestly, because that's an S tier for me, and that was in B for you. So I mean,
Yep.
I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know, but anyway, we're gonna get into some good stuff now. A dramatic turn of events.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do it. Top of S tier.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is
With
my
the face
favorite
you were
album.
making, I was like, He hated it.
This is my favorite album. I was about to say, like, you put your favorite album there, and I'm just like, we haven't gotten to my favorite album yet. I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to give it away. I would have given it away, because, I'm not as crazy about the After Mike Portnoy, the Mangini.
So that's why I was like this album. So I was like, and I know that you've said before that you weren't as big of a fan of the music since
Yeah.
Mangini.
He nailed this, man. He nailed this. Just the more I listen to it, the more I love it. It's so complete and so grand. To me, in the terms of, like, the spectacle of it, it's like if Ministry of Lost Souls was into an album. That's what it feels like. That's the vibe I get of just, like, this grand spectacle of just amazing music that just hits you in every second. And I'm just, like, it is my favorite album by them.
Song list on this album, and I'm just like, oh, they're
Yeah.
all so good. For me, it is A tier below Systematic Chaos.
Your prediction was partially right.
Because I
I
kind of had a feeling it would be pretty close, but I think it's after this one that I'm like, I mean, maybe I should have said after Dramatic Turn of Events will,
Yeah.
but I wasn't sure about that one. That one I wasn't sure about. I had no idea where you stood on this one.
On this one in S tier for a while. This one had grew into an S tier, into my favorite album in the past couple years when I was really getting into this band.
But yeah, like I said, you showed me a song off. I think it was "Build Me Up, Break Me Down," the song that you showed me.
That was one I was really into back in the day.
So I knew you liked that song a lot, but outside of that, I had no idea what you thought about it. So I was like, that's why I just said after Silver Clouds and Silver Linings, just to give myself a little bit of.
It was probably an A tier for me for a while, but just recently it went straight to the top.
What are some of your standouts on this album?
Just the album. Like, the first three tracks are just, On the Backs of Angels, Build Me Up, Break Me Down, Lost Not Forgotten. But honestly, Bridges in the Sky is slept on so much. That song is so fantastic. Outcry is a good one. I could just name the whole album. The whole album. I'm fanboying. Just ignore me. The whole album.
We have the same standouts, by the way. On the Backs of Angels, Building Up, Break Me Down, Lost Not Forgotten, Bridges in the Sky. Those are my standouts.
Okay. Nice. Outcry, I think, is slept on too. Like, Bridges in the Sky and Outcry are probably the ones that I feel like are underrated. Nobody talks about them. I don't know. I don't feel like anybody talks about them. They're fantastic. Few years, 2 or 3 years, this has risen the ranks to the number one album for me. I probably would have it about where you have it right now in the tier list a few years ago. I cannot stand listening to only one track off this album. I have to listen to the whole thing.
I'm the same way with my S tiers as well.
Yeah.
It's just like I hear it and I'm like, well, now I gotta listen to the other ones. We only have 4 albums left.
When this is self-titled, it's usually a debut, so it's weird that they put this one as self-titled, being like their 13th album. I'm just gonna go ahead and say this is my first C tier. I wasn't a big fan of it. I don't know. It didn't feel like they put their all into this album. There's some good, cool songs, I occasionally listen to The Enemy Inside. I don't know. I just don't really go back to this album a whole lot. Didn't really do much for me, so I feel like C tier is a good place for it.
Mine is bottom of B. I like it. I really enjoy it. Enemy Inside, Looking Glass, Enigma Machine, some of my favorites on there. The other one is Illumination Theory. Those are pretty good. Really enjoyed those. I don't really have a lot to say about it. I enjoyed it. It's good. I hadn't really listened to a whole lot of it before we did the whole discography thing, so I can't really say that I don't go back to it yet.
Right.
So as of right now, it's in B.
I guess we'll move it on to the next one. 3 left. The Astonishing.
Yep. Right. Like a longest album.
Okay, The Astonishing was not as astonishing as I'd like it to be. I'm going to put it at the bottom of B tier right now. It's below 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. It's fine. I enjoy it. There's a lot of elements about the album that I do really like, but I kind of feel like this is also getting to the point of where Dream Theater is just kind of just doing the same kind of thing each album, and it's just kind of getting a little old at this point. This is kind of where it gets to that point for me. I think I haven't really read too much into the story, so I can't really I'm not gonna comment on it too much because I'm more of a music guy overall. But like from what I can tell, it's fine. Just musically, this is kind of getting to the point of it just being a little repetitive in their writing techniques and everything. Not really going crazy like they used to, which I mean, it can be hard. I understand. Like this is what like 15 albums in now or something. But like I don't know, I just wasn't a big fan of it. I wanted to really like it honestly because I love the concept of like a 2 disc 2 hour masterpiece kind of prog metal thing. I like
Right.
the thought of it. I like the concept of it, but it just didn't hit for me. I enjoy it for what it is. There are some really good moments on the album. I would definitely give them that. Like, I think the first half is a lot better for me than the second, because I think just the length of it is kind of what ruined it for me. Of like, okay, it was kind of they get into that
Yeah,
point. There's
that
just
that
like,
is kind of
yeah,
hard because when something is really that long and you're trying to just go through the entire thing, you kind of start to get tired. And so like the last half kind of just stops kind of zoning out. So sometimes you have to like break it up so that way um you're like refreshed whenever you come back to the second one to like fully judge it. For me, it's bottom of A. I
bottom
really
of
enjoyed it.
A. I was
I
kind of
really,
feeling
really
that
enjoyed
you.
it. For me, I am more of a lyrics person and much more of a story person. When I listened to it, I pulled up like the story and was reading along with it and like figuring out where all the what part of the story the songs were and everything. And I was following along with the
Yeah,
story. And was really invested in the story of it, and I really enjoyed the story, and I could just see it playing out as a movie in my head while I was listening to it. I
yeah,
thoroughly enjoyed it. I will say though, the first time I listened to it, I didn't realize it was a concept album, so I just had it playing on in the background and I was just listening to it because I'd never listened to it all the way through. So I was like, I'm just gonna, and this was like a couple of years ago. So I was like, I'm just gonna throw this on and listen to it. And so I just listened to it all the way through, picked out a few songs that I really liked in it, but it was honestly like bottom of B tier for me before I like actually paid attention to the lyrics and the story and everything. Once I
yeah,
started doing that, I was like, oh, whoa, okay, cool. This is cool.
yeah.
The standout songs for this album. This has double the amount because it is double the length. My standouts are Active Faith, 3 Days, A Life Left Behind, Chosen, Moment of Betrayal, The Path That Divides, and Losing Faith.
This was kind of like the most popular one, but I did really like the Gift of Music. Or the
Because what I was
songs.
doing before is I was listening to it and then I was just like writing down the ones that like stood out to me as I was listening to them. This one, I was just like, I was just so invested in it and not really paying attention to when the songs transitioned and not. This is a little hard for me. I was kind of like, wait, I have to do my standouts. Which
Yeah,
ones did I really like? Because I was just so invested in like the story. And that one I feel and like I don't think I could really listen to a lot of those on their own. It tells a story, you know. It's hard to just pull out some songs and like be like, I'll listen to this,
right,
but not
right.
the rest of the album. Because like pretty much every song ends with it leading into another song. So taking it out of that is just it ends weird.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid album. I was pretty solid. I just
Yeah.
it was just kind of getting to the point in their career of and just the overall flow of the discography. It was just kind of getting a little with the music. It was like, okay, kind of heard this already, but
They're the two newest.
I think it's pretty darn good. I'm gonna put it at the top of B tier, which is weird because like I was
Yeah.
talking about the establishing, and it was like, yeah, it's kind of getting a little old at this point, but I don't know. Going back and listening to Distance Over Time gives me a little bit of dramatic turn of events vibes of like it's grand and stuff, and I don't know. It's not as grand, obviously, because it's 2 tiers below it. It just kind of reminded me of my favorite album by them, so I kind of like that.
Untethered Angel, Paralyzed, Fall into the Light, Barstool
Paralyze. I
Warrior,
like.
Room 137, S2N,
Yes.
At Wind's End, Out of Reach, Pale Blue Dot, and Viper King.
Yes. Okay. I have some things to say, but let's go ahead into your placement before I go into that
Mine
place.
is in C, actually.
See.
I thought I liked it better than you.
Talked
I
about
feel
this
like when
band
we had
for
our
years.
conversation last, I was like really liking it, and you were kind of like about it. So I'm really surprised that you put it higher than I did.
Why C?
I will say this one sound has a different sound than like pretty much anything that they've done before, which I think is really cool. And that's part one of the reasons why I really like it. And I will say this, I was really debating putting it in B. Really was. I was like between B and A or B and C. I mean, C, but like barely tipping over into B. I think it's because the sound and style that they went with for this one works for some songs, but not other songs. There are some songs that
Mm,
kind of have
yeah,
style that I just don't feel like works quite well. When I first listened to it, I was kind of disappointed that like pretty much every song is like short.
yeah,
Short compared to every other Dream Theater song. Like every
right,
song
right.
is like 5 minutes long. I think there are some that are a little longer than that, but and so that was just kind of like for me because I really like it when they go crazy and do like a 20-minute song with like six
Right,
different
right.
time changes, time signature changes, and they didn't really do that in this one. So I think that is part of the reason why I wasn't as into it.
Yeah.
But when they do a good song, they do a good song.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think this is Mike Mangini's best in this band. That's the
Mm.
real reason why it's in B tier and not C for me. Is he destroyed this album, dude? Like he is the shining light in this album. The other band members are doing good, but you still kind of get that feeling that they're just still doing the same thing they've been doing for the past 5 albums.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about I can't pin it down or like pinpoint it and stuff, but there's something about Mangini's performance in this album that just really hit me in the face, and I was just like, "Oh, this guy's great."
Yeah. Another reason why it's in C for me is because when I was reading meanings behind these songs, so a lot of them didn't have like analysis of them, but the ones that did, I was like, that's what the song's about.
Yeah,
It's about that?
yeah.
Really? Guys, come on.
At Wit's End was really good. So, Pale Blue Dot, At Wit's End, Paralyzed, and Untethered Angels were the big standouts for me.
But my
Wrong.
standouts for this song were Untethered Angel, Paralyzed, Pale Blue Dot, and Viper King.
We are disagreeing with Viper King. Like, I appreciate the fact that it felt a little different. It kind of felt like they were trying something new, but I don't remember liking that one. Maybe I need to go
Viper
back and
King
listen to it,
is
but
my favorite song on the album. Viper
yeah.
King's my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and listen to it, but I don't remember liking that one too much. I think that you're going to put A View from the Top of the World into B tier.
I
Pick
think you're gonna put it in. I'm thinking C. You were right. It's bottom of B.
bottom of B.
Bottom
I
of
was
B.
right. Yeah.
I liked it a
I
little
was.
bit better than Distance Over Time.
Your prediction was C. I will say that you are wrong. It is in D. It's the top of D, but it's in D.
I was wondering. I was like,
Um,
it's gonna be either C or D. I don't
yeah,
think
I'm not a big fan on this one.
Yeah,
I
when I talked to you about it, you said you weren't a big fan, but then you were also like, I have only listened to like two songs, and I was like,
yeah.
well, then you can't give
I
it a
I remember
pair.
listening to The Alien when it came out, and I'm just like, I feel like I've heard this on like every one of their albums since like Metropolis Part 2, so it's just like, but like the whole album itself, it's not insulting. It's There's two albums that I dislike more than this one, obviously.
Like the way that I said that Distance Over Time, I could tell that they were trying something new. It had to do interesting sounds. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. This one went back to basics, and it's kind of the reason why you don't like it is the reason why I like it, is it kind of sounds like going back to like original Dream Theater, kind of like
Hmm.
it sounds like some of their older stuff, older than the like past 3 or 4 albums. So
Yeah.
that's why I really liked it. Feel like it is like a well structured album. I do think the reason why it's not any higher than it is because some of the songs just kind of blend together a little bit. Like I get the Alien and Invisible Monster mixed up in my head a lot. Even when I'm like listening to it, I'm like, "This is the Alien," and I'll look at my phone. And I'm like, "Oh no, this is the Invisible Monster." Oops. So like that's part of the reason why it's not any higher than it is
Yeah.
because that happens. It does. there are a few songs on there that just kind of bleed together, and it's just like I'm
Yeah.
listening to A View from the Top of the World, but I don't know which song.
It's not as insulting. I mean, none of their albums are really insulting, but if I had to use that word for one of them, it would be Falling into Infinity.
Falling into Infinity, yeah.
So it's not to that level, but it's the most to that level in a way. Because, like, I'm a little forgiving with their first album because it's their first album, you know? I don't want to
Yeah,
use the word insulting, but, like, even though I kind of like this one, I put this one above their first album, but, you know, whatever. But I don't know. It's just didn't do much for me. It's kind of
that's
forgettable,
fair.
and yeah, I just kind of felt like I listened to this album. When I was listening to it, I was just like, in the back of my head, I just felt like I listened to this the past 3 albums. So I'm just like, I feel like I've listened to this album already. So it's like, and that's why it's in
Fair.
D for me.
This one was also like tipping between B and C for me, as well as Distance Over Time. Like I was like, "Mm." But I
Gotcha.
do think I like it a little bit better than Distance Over Time. And so if Distance Over Time is tipping over into B but landed in C, and I like that one a little bit better than this, it goes in
Yeah.
B. You know,
All
it may
right.
change over time. I may dislike it a little bit more as time goes on, as they release more albums.
What I
Yeah.
have on the screen here is Nathaniel's tier list. So in D tier, he has Falling into Infinity and When Dream and Day Unite. Those are the only ones. That's his D tier. In C tier, he only has one album. He has Distance Over Time. B tier is a little bit more hefty, starting from least favorite to best favorite in his tier. We've got A View from the Top of the World, Dream Theater, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, Images and Wars, and Aquavarium. His A tier we got from least to best. The Astonishing, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, A Dramatic Turn of Events, Systematic Chaos, and Awake. I'm very happy that you liked Awake as pretty much as I did, because this
Yeah,
is a
Awake.
very
Oh,
slept on album.
love Awake.
Yeah,
Like
it
I said,
is.
I was debating putting
Yeah,
in S.
it is his number 3 in the rankings, and then his S tier we have Train of Thought and Black Clouds and Silver Linings. Not a whole lot that I disagree with on your thing. I think it's understandable.
I
Agree.
think there were
Probably.
only two that we had like pretty like
Yeah,
dramatic differences.
yeah.
Images and Words
Images and
and
Words.
A View from the Top of the World.
My D tier starts from least to best, Falling into Infinity, When Dream and Day Unite, and A View from the Top of the World. That's my D tier. My C tier is Dream Theater, the self-titled. That's it. My B tier is The Astonishing, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, and Distance Over Time. My A tier, which I've put 5 albums in A tier, which has the most, is Awake, Aquavarium, Black Clouds and Silver Linings, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, and Train of Thought, which got so very close to S tier, but my S tier is Systematic Chaos, Images and Wars, and A Dramatic Turn of Events. Let us know in the comments what your tier list is. I will most likely put the link to this specific tier list that we did in the description, so you can actually make your own and check it out and stuff. I've always struggled with like what I want to do because I started out with album reviews and then I did a podcast, and I feel very comfortable in this situation. I like the tier list. I like the tier list format. I like doing it with a guest. So
I think tier lists are more fun with other people because then you can
yes,
kind of have a conversation about why you did it this way and why you did that way and why they did it
yeah,
this way and all that stuff. And
yeah.
it kind of sparks more of a conversation. I feel like if I were to do something like this on my own, I would have a hard time trying to come up with things to say about certain things.
But yeah, speaking of tier lists, this is definitely not the end. This is only like my third one, I think. Definitely more to come. You probably will see Nathaniel again, most likely.
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna do music though. I'm gonna branch off and do some other things.
Ooh,
So I think that is going to wrap things up. Again, thank you, Film Thespian, for being on this video with me. Really appreciate
of
it.
course.
I would definitely be inviting you again. Thank you guys for watching. I will have the link to his YouTube in the description. Check him out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next tier list video.
Bye.
Goodbye.